Good evening to the guys, gals, non binary pals. It's good to see you. Hopefully, it's good to see me. But it's good to see you, although I don't technically see you, but I imagine seeing you. Who wants to be number 37 subscriber? I know it's you. Wait, no, we got a 37th today. Who wants to be number 38? Could be you. I'm going to take a little break talking about what's going on with me. We'll get back to that tomorrow, share more information. But first, I want to talk about Ted Cruz, the most likable man on the planet. And by likable, I mean absolutely despicable and hateable. However, his speeches at CPAC are so entertaining. You gotta YouTube them. I'm not going to put the link because it's Ted Cruz. But you can find him on just, two little things he said at CPAC was we can't elect Joe Biden because he travels with a second pair of pants in case he makes poo-poo in his pants. I travel with a second pair of pants. World is scary out there. Now, granted, I haven't made poo-poo in my pants for 32 years or something, but you never know. Scary out there. No shame. No shame. Then he said that liberal women are angry all the time because they're sexually frustrated because all liberal men are weenies. And yes, he said weenies. Ted, Donald Trump called your wife a horse, and you put your head up his ass and kissed his sphincter. There's no more weenie move than that. He said your dad killed Kennedy. But again, open up those cheeks. One more, Donald. So I really just don't think you're in a position to be calling other people weenies. And just say dick. You can say it. It's a word. People use it. I hope I don't get demonetized. Oh, I'm not going to get demonetized because I'm not monetized. Okay. But that's not the heart of what I want to talk about today. I just thought I'd start off with a little entertainment. I want to talk about two upcoming Supreme Court cases involving former President Donald Trump. The first one has to do with his federal cases, mainly the one in D.C., where he is accused of defrauding the U.S. and obstructing an official proceeding. Now, his lawyers made a motion that anything that happened when he was president, any crime he may or may not have committed, he has complete immunity from because he was president. This is a losing argument. This is a very losing argument. They made this just to slow down the proceeding because they don't want there to be any litigation before the 2024 presidential election. This was adjudicated in a civil aspect in the U.S. v. Clinton, in a criminal aspect in the U.S. v. Nixon. This has been decided. So why would they make the motion? Aren't they, outstanding lawyers? Trump only hires the best. Because they just want to slow it down. So Jack Smith, in a very intelligent move, filed what's called a writ of certiorari to go directly to the Supreme Court. Now, it's rare that someone can get an issue decided by the Supreme Court without having to go through appeal, and exhaust all the appeals and make it to the Supreme Court, unless there is a matter of extreme national interest and importance. Well, a presidential election is a matter of extreme national importance. And Trump was quite upset, I'm sure, when the Supreme Court agreed to hear it. Now, they haven't ruled on it yet, but I think it's pretty obvious it's going to be like 9-0 that what he's saying is nonsense. Maybe Thomas or Alito will vote, yeah, what he's saying right, full presidential authority. He can, shoot someone on Fifth Avenue. But either way, it's a bad faith argument, and the Supreme Court's going to knock it down. I would bet my bottom dollar on that. The second Trump issue that's going to the Supreme Court will be the fact that the Colorado State Supreme Court removed Trump from the primary ballot for enticing an insurrection against the government. Now, they're using the 14th Amendment. This was put in the 14th Amendment because you had members of the defunct Confederacy who had just lost the war trying to join Congress, the United States Congress, become senators, become representatives. And believe it or not, Lincoln was actually in support of that as a way to heal the Union. Then Johnson came in and said no. And then they went back and forth and they compromised on the 14th Amendment. Obviously, Lincoln was dead at that point. So that was the purpose of it. However, it was not spelled out, Confederate, Confederate representatives coming back. Those details weren't spelled out, so they're not in the four corners of the law. However, and let me just start off with the obvious. I do not like Donald Trump. I think he is a fascist. I think he is the biggest danger to this country. And I think if somehow he wins re-election, there may not be a 2028 presidential election. And that's scary. That being said, I believe the Colorado Supreme Court was wrong. They were wrong on judicial reasons and political reasons. Let me start with the judicial. By using the 14th Amendment, he has to have been tried or at least accused of insurrection. He hasn't been found guilty of insurrection. He hasn't even been indicted for insurrection. When you're talking about his charges to overturn the 2020 election, there are 4 indictments, and let me read them to you. The first one is conspiracy to defraud the U.S. You notice the word insurrection's not in there. Second one, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. Word insurrection's not in there. Third, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. Word insurrection's not in there. 4, conspiracy against rights. Now, someone may argue, well, okay, but if you look at those, that's sort of what an insurrection is. Maybe that's a way to interpret that. However, there is a law that specifically has the word insurrection in it, which he is not charged with. And that is United States Code Section 2383. The law prohibits the incitement, assistance, and participation in rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States and its laws. In my opinion, did Trump do that? Absolutely. My opinion is worth the 37 people who may watch this video. Jack Smith did not charge Trump with that. Because he hasn't been charged with it, obviously he hasn't been found guilty of it. So I believe the Colorado Supreme Court has overstepped here. And keep in mind, it was a 4-3 decision All 7 of those justices were appointed by Democratic governors. I just think they got it wrong. They made a political decision and used their judicial appointments as a means to. And I don't care if it's Trump, I don't care if it's Biden, I don't care if it's Joe Schmo. That's not how the system's supposed to work. And when I started this YouTube station, I promised I'd always say how I felt, regardless if it fell in support of who I support or not in support. Now keep in mind, I think Trump is guilty of all this stuff. But we have a legal system, and we have procedures, and they weren't followed. Now, had Trump been found guilty of U.S. Section 2383, I would be on board with the Colorado Supreme Court. But I can't be. It doesn't make sense. Now, let's look at this from a political perspective. All this is going to do is embolden Trump. That's it. Because obviously this is going to be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I, again, think it's possible they may decide 9-0 in Trump's favor. Maybe 8-1, you'll get Kagan or Sotomayor to be the descending vote, just for optics. But this isn't going to last. His name is going to be on the Colorado primary ballot. So what's the point? He's going to walk out of this with a win. Why are we handing him wins? And on top of that, Colorado is a blue state. Colorado hasn't voted for a Republican since 1984. Reagan. A lot of elections since then. They always go blue. So if you were to do this in like Pennsylvania or Michigan or somewhere, maybe I'd understand. I wouldn't agree with it, but I'd understand. But Colorado, there's no net gain here. Even if, let's say, the U.S. Supreme Court got it wrong and his name stayed off the ballot, that would just re-emphasize the witch hunt. They're out to get me nonsense that he vomits all the time. The Democratic Party has this in the bag right now, I believe. But the Democratic Party had it in the bag in 2016, and we all saw what happened there. This is not the way to go about it. And then you have Vivek Ramaswamy saying, I will take my name off the ballot in Colorado if this stands. The quick thing about Vivek, he's not real. He's a Trump plant. I guarantee it. He's there to do Trump's bidding. Like, I bet you he met Trump once. They were talking about business. Trump didn't want to go to the debates. So Trump's like, I need someone to say a bunch of nasty stuff to people in the debates. Found Vivek, they're both billionaires, and said, you go do it. And when I'm elected, which, because that's how Trump would talk, I'll give you an appointment. I don't think vice president, because vice president is a pretty useless job unless the president dies. But he probably promised him something like chief of staff. However, I don't think Trump is going to be president again. I still think Biden has it in the bag. But not if the Democrats keep doing dumb stuff like this. And that's what scares me. This is the Democrats' election to lose. Just like it was in 2016. Just like it was in 2020. And they came close. The election was not rigged. It wasn't fixed. But it was closer than it should have been. So this Colorado thing just annoys me and annoys me. Because it's going to piss people off because they're being treated like idiots. Stop it. Just stop it. Let him self-destruct. Like, the Biden campaign in 2020 was perfect. He went in the basement, didn't talk. and let Trump self-destruct. Perfect. That's what we need to do this time. Stop trying to do all this aggressive stuff. Either way, that's all I have. I'd like to send love out to Taylor Swift, as always, because in Taylor we trust. And if no one's told you they love you today, I very much do. In Taylor we trust.